Cool. So let's formally kick this off now. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my workshop, Your Guide to Judging a Hackathon. Here, we'll cover a variety of topics to help you plan your hackathon and to avoid trouble in judging as much as possible. I know it's hectic. I know it's like you have to schedule a lot and there's a lot going on all at once. But don't worry, we'll cover every aspect there. And at the end of the session, we'll also do a quick Q&A so that if there are any questions that I was like unable to cover or if it was not clear at, I can help you out with those. Awesome. So let me first start with a brief introduction about myself. So my name is Sashrika and I'm an MLH coach for the APAC region. We work tirelessly to support hackathon organizers and ensure that hackers have a great learning experience. By far, I've helped at more than 10 hackathons now, and I'm here to talk about judging with you all. So without further ado, let's dive right in. Now, what is judging all about? Right. So when you think about judging, I want you to just take a moment and pop in your answers there in the chat room. So once you do that, just like, what do you think judging is all about? What is the most important thing that you need to take care of while you think about judging? So let's first talk about that. I hope to see some interesting answers. If we were doing it in a like an in-person hackathon, I would have like asked you to just get out, talk to me, but we can just make do with the chat room for now. Clarity, get it in time. Yes, of course, getting it in time is really tough. And once you're doing that, it's like, oh, it's a havoc if it's not done in time. Everything's late. Absolutely. Clarity. See, interesting. I'll talk about what I think judging is all about as well, but I want you all to just pop in your answers there in the chat room and we'll discuss about those too. Now, this is an important question to answer before we decide how to proceed with our hackathon. Now, judging is the final part of hackathon and it defines the culmination of your event. Of course, in this do or die situation, many things can go wrong. So before we actually talk about planning it, we need to be very clear on what role does judging play. In my opinion, judging is all about celebrating the hack because of its awesomeness, right? The hackers did a fantastic job and built some amazing projects. Learning, the journey, the efforts, everything must be praised and celebrated. Demoing in itself is an incredible learning process itself. It's an achievement, and I believe that it's important we understand its essence before we actually figure out the process. Another thing that we need to ensure is that hackers feel accomplished. Providing them valuable feedback and making them feel motivated to take the project forward is something that we need to instill in the hacker spirit. Keeping this spirit in mind, we also need to focus on providing them valuable feedback and making them feel motivated to take the project forward. Now, while instilling the spirit of innovation, is that all we need in a hackathon, right? Cool. So let's focus on another thing and discuss our goals a bit. To summarize, all we need is participants get a fair shot. Everyone feels that the best hacks won and the audience, they've seen a good show. So once we're very clear about the goals that we have in mind, and I can see tons of other answers as well. So hackers share their project, even if it's not finished. Yes, of course, demoing is necessary. It's almost as important as like showing up to the hackathon. You need the demo, you need to see what other projects are there. Team building and yeah, so like these are a few important aspects that we have covered, but this is like defining our goal in general. Now, in my opinion, this is something that we need to focus on before we just go ahead and basically focus on planning now. Now, moving forward, let's jump to the phase one, that is planning. Now it's time to take notes, folks, and we're going to jump into a lot of information, but don't worry, I'll give you access to these slides so that you can look at it later as well. Now, the first thing, this particular segment basically depends on multiple factors, and we're going to discuss each of them in a little detail. The first style that I want to talk about regarding the judging style would be the demo style. And how does that work? So you've all seen many hackathons and you've been to many hackathons and you've seen that there are a lot of people who focused on doing it, like folks want to make the demo style work, or in some region, they might refer it to as the presentation style. Now, every team gets 2 to 5 minutes on stage to show off their hack and basically demo what they The positive points is basically on the plus side. What I think is, look, everybody is able to see the bizarre projects that they build, the awesome projects. You can see what your friends created, what others created. And a demothon actually needs just one big hall, and a small panel of expert judges to see which hackathon is the best. They can mark relatively or whatever works the best for you. But in addition to this, the other thing that is the positive point of demo style is what I believe is that sponsors can see who is eligible for their prizes in just one sitting. But wait, what do you think will go wrong here? Now, it certainly has a good way, but there are downsides to it. So I want you all to just keep this interactive, mention that in the chat room. What do you think would go wrong in a demo style hackathon? What are your opinions on that? I'll discuss them all in detail. I'll discuss a few of my perspectives. Yes, it takes a long time. Absolutely. What else? What else do you think would go wrong while doing a demothon type of show? Time constraints, technical difficulties, of course. Demo crash. Oh, that's a big one. Overlaps between successive reviews. Absolutely. Now, these are a few points that actually define the things that can go wrong with a demo. So, like summarizing these two, yes, demos can be very long. Now, imagine this. Now, you were working on a project for 24 hours, and then you're told that you have to sit through another 6 hours of demos. Doesn't achieve our goal, does it? Secondly, it becomes all about the pitch. So you work for 24 hours on a project and you've put all your into it. The hackers have really used their knowledge, expanded, learned. They had actually practiced different skills. And now all it comes down to one pitch. That's not as fair as we want it to be. Now we want these sense of projects to come out through conversations and not just pitch. Other problems that you can face that I'm not here would be due to multiple AV setups and taking care of demo times, as someone mentioned, that overlapping between successive reviews. Now that is some problem that you might have to face in a demo style hackathon. So to fix this, the shortcomings of a demo style, we introduced the parallel demo style. But how do we run this? As the name suggests, you just split the judging into multiple rooms, and basically there are simultaneous demo rooms. Hackers do not want to sit through long hours of demos, so you divide them and you run them parallelly. Sounds easy, right? And it also fixes the problem of basically overlapping between successive reviews. It reduces that, the long time is reduced, so the bandwidth is decreased. But there is something that can go wrong here too. Now, I want your ideas to know what it is. So mention that in the chat room. What do you think would go wrong with a parallel demo style? We actually tried to fix the time constraint issue, the overlaps, or basically long demo hours, everything regarding that. But there is something that might go wrong here too. Maybe lack of uniformity in judging, unclear on who won between the two rooms. Yes, now you see the hackers still get all of the advantages of the demothon with the scale problem solved, of course, but things go wrong here. And I can see two of the folks have already mentioned about how they're unclear between who won in the two rooms and maybe a lack of uniformity in judging. Now the logistics, they get complicated too. You need, instead of having one big hall, you need to have multiple rooms, and you need to have separate AV setups in those different rooms. So let's talk about what will go wrong here. Now, we need multiple demo rooms. That is what we talked about. Logistics are complicated. No single judge gets to see all the hacks. This is another problem that we face. What if one room has a handful of amazing hacks and the other have none, or not so much exciting? Judging then becomes more subjective and complicated. You run the risk of not even surfacing the best hacks in the room. And the best hacks don't even make it to the final demos. And that's the problem they face. Bearing this in mind, we at MLH really support the science fair way. Now let's talk about how this solves our problem. But before I answer this question, I'll talk about what the science fair way is, and I want you to just give me an idea of what you think how this solves our problem, right? So the science fair way is basically setting up a huge expo hall, and in that hall you give every team a table to judge. So they actually create their own booth, set up their projects, and Then the top 10 teams are bubbled up based on judges roaming around, basically talking to different hackers and trying to figure out, like having actual conversations. So these demos are easy to scale, time is saved, and instead of pitches, judges focus on get to have one-on-one conversations with the hackers and to understand the project more clearly. Because they worked on this project for 24 hours, you need to be able to understand the essence of the project. So we can't stress this enough, how conversations are more important than pitches. So, like, do you think it solves the problem? And I want you to just give your inputs in the chat room and let me know if you think how this solves the problem. So now, while you're typing, I'll just move on to the next slide and I'll transition this digitally. So you see how this works, but the question that arises is, Sashrika, how can we do this digitally? Expo Hall, fine, works. But how do you implement this digitally? I can see another point which says science fairs are kind of difficult for online hackathons, especially when you have a large participation. Absolutely, I'm here to answer that question as well. Now, to implement this digitally and to transition in a digital environment, we at MLH Summer League events have hosted an event in for the entire summer. Yes, so I have another question and I'll answer that in my presentation as well. So we take the submissions online. Now, what do? We ask them to explain their projects in 2-minute demo videos where they'll just talk as if they're talking to a real judge. We log judges to different projects and ask them to decide their top 3 entries. Now, based on the relative ranking, we choose the overall winner. The 2-minute demo videos, we make sure that we stress this enough to the hackers. That please make the demo videos as if you were talking to an actual judge if you were in an in-person hackathon, which doesn't really transition everything from pitches to conversations, but still gives them some sort of feel considering the digital constraint in mind. Now, after we have allotted the judges and we have the 2-minute video in, we do a relative ranking. But speaking of which, before we just focus on everything else, I want to talk about the judging criteria a little bit, right? What is the recommended way to ensure that you choose a winner and you do it right? So these are 5 of my favorite points that I actually use, basically tell judges to focus on when they're judging a project to actually surface the awesomeness of the hack. The judges basically can score upon how original the idea is. They can score upon how fantastic do they think the design is, how moved they are by it, and something out of the box basically. And how much did the hackers learn through the entire experience? This is a very important factor. Learning through the project. Did they learn something new? Were they already experienced in this type of project, this type of technology? Then we also talk about how technically sound the project is, if they use different technology, if they explored something different. And lastly, we talk about completeness. Now, completeness is a relative factor, but for me, I define this in one simple statement where I say, did they demo what they claimed? So completeness for me would be, did they demo what they claimed? What this means is, at the beginning of the hackathon, they submit an idea that they want this thing to be this is the project that they want to complete, and these are the features that they want to add in their hackathon. Now, if they completed what they actually claimed, that means I can give them full points for completeness. So this is how I judge this particular segue. Now we're picking a phase, and now we're deciding the judges panel. This is a very important part. Creating a diverse judging panel is really important. But why? And when I actually say diverse, what do I mean by it? So if anyone wants to take that one in the chat room, everyone, what do I mean? So if I say diverse and if I say creating a diverse judging panel is important, why do you think creating a diverse panel is important? Why do you think this point is necessary to talk about while planning? Any ideas? Cool. So since I assume that everyone of you is typing, I'll just move on and talk about it. So creating a diverse judging panel is basically, I mean by being inclusive of specialists from a variety of domains. For instance, developers, engineers, designers, DevRels, fellow hackathon organizers, and anyone from the field who'd actually help in giving you a different perspective. plays a crucial role. There are different opinions on the panel, and remember, the diverse panel, the better your judging would go, would actually surface the best hacks. So we have to have a balanced decision, and that is the reason creating a diverse judging panel is very important. The next move is to decide how many judges do we need. Now, since we were talking about the science fair way, and that is something that we stress at MLH Hacks, we would like to discuss about this formula that we generally recommend. So I'll explain this formula. Just let me, all right. So how many judges do we need? You have your number of teams in place, right? What we need is that every hackathon is judged at least thrice. That could vary according to your hackathons as well. But mostly on the fact that, all right, we need to like ensure that the best hacks surface, and we think that 3 is like a really good number. No, now you just want every hackathon to be judged thrice, so the number of 3 teams into 3, and we assume that one judging, basically one team could be judged for about 5 minutes, 3 minutes of demo time, 2 minutes Q&A, and that would be number of teams into 3 into 5. Now, once we divide it by the number of judges, we get the time for one round of expo. So if you want your round of expo, the time limit to be less, you need to increase your number of judges or basically lessen the number of teams. That's how this formula works, and that actually gives you an idea of how much time do you need to run the judging. Of which, whenever I say that we include like 5 minutes time for hackathon demos to surface, I would like to give you a tip. Whenever you're talking to your judges in your judges briefing as well, just mention that you mention and stress enough on the times so that everything goes on pace. I'll share a few other tips while we go on with the presentation, but this is something that I wanted to mention here. Cool. Now, we move on to the phase 2. That is the day of the event, the judges briefing and the run-off show. Now, starting with the briefing, just explain them how the process works. Whenever you're running a judges meeting and you want everyone to basically be on board with your style of judging, handle objections, talk about everything that you need to in this panel, and clarify their doubts if they have any. Oftentimes, people will try and judge their hacks based on marketability or basically their startup potential, but you should ensure and make sure that your hackathons are special places where developers and basically come to learn and grow and try something unique and silly, and not just focus on the marketing potential. They want to focus on something that could actually make them more technically sound. So to be clear about your judging criteria, and also make sure that everyone agrees. Once you're done with that, assign them the table blocks. Guide them through the entire process. Now, here are a few questions that basically you can ask the judges to ask the hackers once they're judging, so that they understand the project considerably. So you can ask them, if you're a first-time hacker, have you used this hack tech before, and what exactly did you learn? So any problems that you run into making this, and if there are any team members if there are any team members in that team, ask them what they were working on. So these are a few ways in which you can engage conversation and ask the judges to be more, have meaningful conversations with the hackers, right? Now, once they're done with that, you give them a clear timeline on how much time they have until they have to report their top 3. Once they report their top 3, you repeat this for each block. We want this to be run thrice. So for each block, you just give them a fixed time and then ask them to come back to you with the final results, and then go back again for the next block. Once you're done with this, you combine with the results based on relative ranking. This is known as stack ranking. This is something that I mentioned earlier in my presentation as well. Now, the top team gets 3 points. After that, the next team basically gets 2 points, and the team that was ranked 3rd gets 1 point. You can do a relative ranking, which you may feel you're comfortable with. You combine the score, and there you have the final results. You can keep the additional tie-breaking questions or any other factors that you want to keep into account for based on your hackathon, if you have theme, or if you have any other sponsor prizes or category prizes. But this is something that we would recommend you should do. Now, coming to the final phase, phase 3, dealing with the issues. Now, there is a famous saying which I practically basically repeat every time I go to a hackathon, and that is, anything that could go wrong in a hackathon will definitely go wrong in a hackathon. But here we're talking about fixing judging, right? So how do you escape the inevitable? How do you fix and how do you fix if something goes wrong and stuff like that? So to reply to this statement in a short sentence, I would say how well you're prepared depends on how much you can anticipate. But the good thing is, even if you anticipated everything, how can you ensure and what can you do to deal with the issues that arise on the day of event, and when everything comes crashing down, things are going south and you don't know what to do. So I'll give you some general tips which I've seen in hackathons, like organizers generally miss out on, and I hope that these tips might be helpful. Now, all of this actually depends on the situation, any problem that arises, but there are a few tips that if things go wrong and you need to fix something, might help. All right, so if you need time to fix, it's okay to shift your closing ceremony by some time. Remember, it's more important to do it right and fair than to small things by just rushing it all in. So focus on that, and if you want to shift by the opening ceremony by a couple of minutes or say 30 minutes or not, that's totally fine, but make sure you do it right. Now, if you're facing any issues while choosing the winner, make sure you have tiebreakers planned ahead, and you convey these tiebreakers to the judges so that they can weigh in regarding their and give their inputs and decide. So this is something that you need to plan for in the judges meeting. Another thing that I've seen in a few hackathons that have gone wrong is folks use applications or a website to ask judges to fill in their scores. I highly discourage that because it's better to do this process manually and avoid loss of data and save time. So if you face a situation where there's loss of data or like folks are taking a lot of time to understand how your application works, that would create a lot of issues. So it's better to do this process manually and go old school. Now, you can always assign members from the team, organizing team, to shadow judges to your hackathon and help them navigate to the next booth. This will actually save a lot of time. So if your organizer knows which next booth the judge has to go to, they'll just transition them there, help them with the process, and make sure that the demos are not longer than 5 minutes. Now, in case of in-person hackathons, be sure to do AV checks, and you can also assign one of your organizer fellows to just hang in there if something goes wrong and do those AV checks prior to those talks. Now, keep the community involved. This is a very important tip. What I mean by this is, if something goes wrong, or if everything is going fine as well, this is very important. Keep the community as involved as possible. Give a project a chance to demo in front of everyone if they wish to. So oftentimes, fellow hackers want to know what their friends are up to, what other people are basically creating at different hackathons, and want to feel inspired, right? So when they do that, they want to feel inspired from these amazing hacks. And if they're demoing on stage, meanwhile, it gives you time to fix things when everything's going south. So timing is very important when you're doing judging. And if you need time to fix things, this is a very wonderful tip that could help you do that. With that being said, you can always consult an MLH around. They have tons of experience in handling situations like these, and we would love to step in and help you out whenever needed. Now, that will be all from my side, folks, and I'm happy to answer questions now because I want to keep this more interactive. So we'll focus on questions. Cool. So I see that, okay, judges' background may be diverse. Yeah, that's the answer to the question I asked earlier. But now we step into the phase where I answer questions. So judging is like a tough process, but I've tried to give you some generic responses and advice, which we follow for digital and hackathons as well. And I hope this helps. So I'll answer your questions now. Just give me a second. Yep. Cool. So the first question, for an online hack, suppose you're looking for student mentors. How do you go about selecting him? So for online hack, my recommendation is, I've seen this in a few hackathons and it turned out really well, that whenever you're focusing on finding mentors, you just ask folks from your community to join in, folks that you know have been working in this field. Mainly, I want you to focus on mentors who have hackathon experiences in the past. If they've been to hackathons, they know how things work, and they will be pretty easy to reach out. For an online hackathon, reaching out is the important task here. So what I recommend is you can actually have a channel if you're using Discord or if you're using any other platform for your online communication. Just have a separate channel for mentors, and you can provide them tags, or you can do them in shifts, whatever you feel comfortable in your hackathon as well. But in this way, if anyone has a doubt, they'll just pop in, tag all the mentors, and then ask them their query. And if anyone can help them out, they'll just pop right in and help them out. How to organize a science fair at an online hackathon? Great question, Maxim. So to organize a science fair in an online hackathon, as I mentioned in my presentation, you need to focus on the demo videos and converting them to fish. So converting them to conversations instead of pitches. So what we need right here is, if you have, like, you ask the hackers to basically submit 2 to 3 minutes of demo video where they demo their project and basically talk as if they're talking to a judge and demoing their project in an offline setup. So once you do that, you can actually go ahead with assigning 3 judges to one project and ask them to judge them, and then ask for their relative ranking scores. Once you do that, you compile that, and then you work through different blocks. So this is like a very great way that we practice at the Summer League events, and I've seen this do wonders, and so it's some of the best hackathons that we've seen in these events. Since I'm in the moderation panel, if you like to talk about judging, I can actually bring you up on stream, and then if you have a question, you can ask that on stream. Or else I recommend that you can use the chat session and I'll help you out then. So let's talk about another thing a little bit right there. What is the one thing that went wrong with judging in your hackathon? Like, share some experiences, and then maybe I can guide you through that. So the big obstacle that we anticipate in online judging is that since we are actually focusing on in an online environment, and we don't have access to people, we can't just go ahead and talk to people in an offline setup. What we do is we actually reach out to them through the chat room or through any other forms of communication that you're using in your hackathon. And for that matter, it's very important that you check with your judges a little early before your actual judging begins, since in that way you'll ensure that all the judges are checked in or right on time, and you can start judging on time at least. So this is one big obstacle that we faced, that sometimes folks drop out, sometimes they're late. There are other engagements as well that you might face, and you need to be very sure of the number of judges that you have so that you can make a switch in your expo time or do some damage control. And we had elimination rounds in our previous hackathon, which was kind of a bummer for some people because you got ideas towards the end too. Yeah, so for the elimination rounds, if you want to keep elimination rounds in your hackathon, you can do that, but I suggest otherwise. So if there's only one final round where everyone's submitting their final projects, and then from that you just do multiple phases of judging, that would be really easy, instead of just creating an elimination round and giving folks another set of time to work on the same project and then come up with something better. So what I believe is, instead of an elimination round, you can, if you don't have the bandwidth to go for the judging in just one go in one round of expo, what you can do is do that in phases. So for the first phase, you ask everyone to submit, and once everyone submitted there, you just do a second phase of judging internally to make sure that the best hacks surface. But this is time consuming. So I'd recommend that if you can go with the first way and do just one entire final round of judging, that would save you a lot of time. But if you have that bandwidth to do that, you can try that out too. So, but elimination round actually kind of bumps folks out, because basically it's a bummer, as everybody is working on a hack, and after the elimination round, if they have further ideas, then they're bummed that, okay, I'll get that in. So this is kind of a problem that we faced, but I think this is the best solution for that problem. So we have a few more minutes in. If anybody has any other questions, I'm happy to take them as well. I know I gave you a few general tips when I was talking about different hackathon scenarios, but these are a few general tips that would work in any sort of situation, and time is what you need while you want to fix the judging situation. So to manage time well is what you need, and just anticipate any problems that arise earlier. Do you have any suggestions on managing mentor-hacker interactions? So what I believe is to manage mentor-hacker interactions, the best way that I've seen is to, if you're using Discord, create a voice channel and ask the mentor to just pop right in and out, like hang around there for a while, and just be there. If some hacker wants to like communicate or talk, they can just drop by and ask their questions and then leave. They can also do that in the chat room and stay online. So this is something that I've been a very good way to mentor hacker interactions. Another suggestion that I might have would be if there are questions, even if there are no questions there and they would just like to engage generally on a virtual platform while talking about different blogs that they might interested them. So the mentors can share some basic blogs or something, some beginner level hacks that they created, and just ask them, okay, oh, I came around this really interesting project where someone wants to like get inspired, hop in. I'm happy to answer any questions. That gives the hacker a bandwidth to actually reach out to the hacker mentor, to engage in a hacker mentor interaction, and reach out to the mentor to ask their questions. So this is like one way that I've seen really work really well. So with the science fair, judges do a round of watching videos and then top 10 teams then demo in the stream. Yes, so this is like you can do it either way. So what we recommend is if you want to do a hybrid, you can go for a hybrid. You can do just a simple science fair where every judge gives you a top 3 from their blog, and then you surface the best hackathon. But if you want to do that, you also can do, what you can do is you can just ask everyone to do it in a science fair way. The top 10 projects, you can ask them to demo on stream and then ask. But that requires additional time and bandwidth from your side. You have to make those arrangements, and so like you need to ensure which way would be the best trade-off for you and which would be the best way for you to like surface the best hacks. Science fair way, of course, it surfaces the best hack, but if you want an additional round of demoing for the top 10 on stream, you can do for that too. Like when hackers have doubts and stuff, how do you handle the queue of doubts? So whenever hackers have doubts and stuff, we ensure that we have like not just one but multiple mentors in the channel, and we try that like hackers can engage with different mentors even though they have like they don't have to wait for their queue of doubts. So whenever a hacker has a doubt, we try to ensure that like there are multiple members or mentors on the platform so that they can answer and engage with hackers all at once and do it parallelly. If they think that they can actually help them out while jumping on stream, sharing screen, and then sharing their reviews, that's actually a better way to do it. But if you have like less number of mentors and you have like a small bandwidth for that, I'd suggest that you can just create multiple talk rooms and then ask the mentors to join that talk room and wait for a while there, and the mentor can do basically a rotation of that, and that way he can discover all the doubts. Make sure that you take care of the timing issues in this, because some people might be waiting for quite a long time and others would we have just jumped right in. So just make sure you take care of those talk rooms, the queue of talk rooms, and then this is one way that this would work. Cool. So we still have a couple of minutes left. If you want any other questions, I'd be happy to take them as well. Being an MLH coach, we have actually seen and we focus on like every Sunday we just go ahead and talk about judging amongst ourselves and try to make the process more seamless and more engaging for the hackers, so that everyone feels that the best hacks are surfaces and they feel accomplished. So this is our goal, and we're actually working towards that. So these are a few tips and tricks that we actually found worked really well for hackathons even in a digital platform. But there are tons of other ways that you can explore and find out and brainstorm and see what works. Which platform would you suggest for live demos? Hopin. Okay, also this is the first time that I used Hopin, and for live demos, I think this is the really great platform. For the events, this platform was really seamless. It gave a lot of bandwidth to basically help us out with the chat, with like having an interactive chat room as well, and give demoing online. So this is a more of a conversation system, which I really like, and I think that is something that I love. So I think I would suggest Hopin as well, but there are other platforms. If you don't want to go for a live demo, or and you want to like submit your hacks, I think Devfolio, DevPost are doing a pretty great job at that as well. Judge roster management software. So we at MLH actually use the plain old Google Sheets for that, because we feel that we need it more aligned to our interests. At every hackathon, we want to basically ensure that we are covering all our bases, and to go ahead with the judges roster management software would be just like giving up some of the features that we want in a hackathon. We just want it to be more personalized to our needs, and that is the reason we go for Sheets. But we actually have we've created a sheet to ensure that everything is connected and goes seamless. So we do a good import, and then judge all the hackathon prizes, and then get our final results. And yes, we go a little old school, but we actually make sure that we're covering all bases. Cool. Just a quick refresh to see if anyone else has any other questions. Another thing that I think about Hopin that seems great is that they also have these networking and expo halls in separate. So once you're done with your live demos and you want to have a one-on-one conversations, you can just hop into another channel and then have that conversation. So I can't focus this enough. So conversations are much better than pitches, and that is the reason I'm a big advocate of that. So one question that is super important for judges to ask hackers, but is often forgotten, I'd say judges don't ask hackers about their project journey. So what inspired you about this project? What challenges did you face in this project while doing this project? And what were your team members' roles in different parts? So just define what everyone did, so to understand what their journey was like for the 24 hours they were building a hackathon, because hackathons are all about experiences. And even though the final products are really great and awesome, the actual things that they learn are through the experiences that they get. So if you judge on those experiences, like how far they came off in their project and how far they achieved in just 24 hours, that actually gives judges a lot of insight on why this project is awesome in itself. So I think the super important question that they sometimes forget is what inspired them to create this hack, and what were the problems that they faced, and how did they go about fixing them. So this is like a really important question that I highly recommend in my judges briefing to focus on. I ask them to like focus less on the marketing strategies or the startup potential, which some judges might want to focus on, but I would like to focus on much more on basically awesome hacks and something out of the blue, something creative, something that I've not seen before, something that keeps me on. All right. Cool. So these were a few tips and tricks, and I think that we discussed a lot of those factors in detail. And I'm glad that this was very insightful. Thanks, Aditya. I know that if we were in an in-person setup, this would have been much more engaging, and I would have like much more friendly conversations with you all. But even so, we made the best use out of it, and I think that this platform had actually helped us like communicate one-on-one on this process. There's a lot of stigmas going around regarding judging and how to do it the right way, and I thought that this guide would actually help you focus on that. So if you want access to the presentation slides, I'll just put that link in the Learn. I think there's a channel for that. What's it called? Yeah, Talk Notes, of course. So I can go ahead and put that right in, so you all can refer to this if you want. And if there are any further questions regarding that, I'll take them now. We've got a few minutes, or else you can find me in Discord. Yes. I'm so glad. Thank you so much. So these a few tips and tricks that I shared from my experiences. If you have any other tips and tricks to share, I love if you just pop into the Talk Notes channel and just mention it there. This is a big community that we're running, and we would love for one of us to help each other out, and that would be pretty awesome. So thanks a lot for joining in. Thanks, Harshal. Thanks, Sashrika. All right, folks. Bye-bye. I'll see you on Discord.